And we got the Nebraska athletic director, former black shirt, Trev Alberts. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Jay. How are you?
All right. The big question I got for you, obviously, 1 year ago, now we got the transition. We don't need to talk about the past. Have you had time to breathe? Like, that's what I always wonder about Trev. He's always cool, calm, and collective, takes time for everybody. You got NIL stuff, new coaches. You just had an announcement, new tennis coach. I saw, was on the ticker yesterday. The new facility being built. Then you got to come here, answer questions. When do you breathe, man? I mean, I want to know. I mean, when?
Well, we try. I don't know. Sometimes when I get home at night for a little bit, I guess. But no, I think you just kind of condition yourself. This is just the pace you have to go. And at the end of the day, our work ethic and the price we're willing to pay is going to be directly correlate with our success.
Right.
And, I look back to some of the success we had previously. I think there were a lot of people, Jay, that if we really identify, some of these coaches and people worked really hard.
Right.
And it's not always going to be easy at Nebraska. Right. But the one thing, control what you can control is we can control our work ethic.
Yep.
And so I like people who want to work. And I think by and large, we have a staff that's working really hard.
Yeah. I mean, that's you couldn't say it much better. No. You embody your boss and the people around you. And, we won't get into too many football questions. I won't ask you if you're excited. I'm excited. I know you're excited. But, not excited, but how much are you looking forward to just getting started? It's kind of, look, we all played. You used to play here. Our bodies are conditioned, right?
Yep.
How much are you looking forward to just football where you kind of get in that grind, right? Hey, the games and you kind of lead up to it. How much are you looking forward to that?
Well, it's a lot of the administrative stuff that I get to do. It's not real fun. Let's be honest. I mean, and it's about solving problems. It's part of the job, and I'm happy to do it. But the reality is, what do I love, right? And it's not just football. It's football is a big part of it, but it's the actual competition. We just like we had people serving us as student athletes, and to get to see them outside of being a student in their element with the special gifts that God has given them to compete and represent the University of Nebraska and wearing that brand. That's what I get really excited about. And just the energy and the passion. I've told a lot. I have a competition problem.
Right.
I love to win. Like that's who, that's how.
That's who we are.
And so, I can go to work and do all that stuff, but at the end of the day, there's something about walking out on that field. And even though and I know I'm living vicariously through the young men and women in our athletic department, but that's what's special to me.
Yeah, Trev. So you talk about the competition side of it, and pacing yourself, catching your breath, and you mentioned that. So where kind of on that chart, like in your head, like you got this goal, you want to get to that goal. How far are you to some of them goals and expectations that you have in your vision coming here as athletic director?
Well, we've made a lot of progress. First of all, you don't really know what you're going to find. And I generally what happens is in any organization, not just an athletic department, but if you have a lot of turnover in leadership, there's probably some problems. So when I went to UNO in 2009, we had 17 ADs in 30 years. So there was a pretty big hole. Well, you guys might be surprised, and I know some of it was interim, but in my 12 years at UNO, there was 4 ADs in Lincoln. So that just tells you
that's a lot.
There was too much turnover. There's probably some problems. So the way I look at it is, I think, I think sometimes in leadership, what the right thing to do is, but sometimes having the courage to execute on what I just decided. We had some challenges. We have not made some of the tough decisions, in the past because I don't know what we were worried about, but we're going to make the tough decisions. Like we look at our stadium. There's some things we need to do to be more equitable. There's some things we need to do. We're going to do that, right? We're going to have the courage to do what we think is right. And in the end, we'll be right some, we'll be wrong some, but we're going to have the courage to execute. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think we've made a lot of progress. We have a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
But I think that, I think Matt and I think coaches can have such an impact on terms of the culture, right? You can be an administration trying to have a culture that's a family and you want to be, accessible and open and, authentic and genuine. But if your coaches don't
embody that.
So that's what I've been, appreciative of Matt. He's really been helpful in that area.
What's the one thing, obviously from the press conference when Matt first got here, obviously it was great. But what's the one thing beneath that? I've texted you after I got to kind of get him in an environment where nobody knew, and you learn a lot where I was at, and I won't disclose that. What's the one thing that you could tell our listeners about him that not everybody knows? Because I learned a lot about him that I had no idea about. What's one thing you picked up on?
Well, first of all, I told him this, when we were going through the process, it was easy he had just been let go by Carolina. So a lot of the other coaches you're going to want to talk to, they're not ready to talk to you yet. It's early in the season. So I thought, well, there's an opportunity to at least I was going to learn I'd never hired a football coach. I hired a lot of coaches, but not a football coach. This is a whole different deal.
Yeah.
And with Matt, I got off that first Zoom and I was like, man, either this guy is incredibly brilliant and has studied everything about the University of Nebraska and just knew what to say, or he actually believes this. Like, he actually believes in development and a lot of the stuff that, was part of who we were. But I would just say the thing that I didn't know or I've been impressed with about Matt is, like, I think he has this genuine passion. I think he's a college football nut. Like, he loves college football. And I think he has this genuine passion to try to get Nebraska back to where we all want it. Right. When you think about college football, college football needs, and this, I don't want to, college football needs Notre Dame to be relevant. Right. College football needs USC to be good. Yep. College football needs Nebraska
exactly
to be relevant, and I'm not talking about winning national championships. Right. And part of what we need to do here is, like, let's not get too excited. It is year one, right. But Nebraska needs to be relevant. And I think Coach Rule, really embraces that.
Trev, being around here from last year's football team and that kind of spring practice or whatever the case may be, to now being around a Coach Rule coach team, what are some of the differences that you saw positively, of course, in this football team under Coach Rule?
Yeah, and then I always want to be very careful. I don't want to, be talking about previous coaching staffs. It's hard to do, and it's really not fair to them too, because I only got to see the back half of a regime, and it's really, what would this regime do during adversity with some losses, and how do they operate, right? So it's not really an apples to apples, but I would just say, I believe in discipline and I believe in accountability. I believe that talent level may go up and down, but I think in the end, if you have clearly defined expectations about discipline and accountability, I remember Coach Osborne always saying, like if you can count on people, all the time, then you can count on one when it's 4th and 1 and we got to get a stop, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been really pleased, and quite frankly, like, the players are pleased with discipline and accountability. Like, I think about my own kids, and somebody told me one time, like, as a parent, you just want to be friends with your kids because you want your kids to like you.
Right.
The reality is, as I was told, like, Trev, they have all kinds of friends. They want you to be your dad, and they want clearly defined boundaries of expectations as your children. Our players are no different, right? They want some freedom, but they also want to know where the boundaries are. And I think Coach Rule and the staff, and you can only do that. And he taught me that early on in his tenure. He said, you have to earn the right to coach people hard. You can't just go coach people hard.
No, you can't.
And how do you earn the right to coach you hard? They got to know you love them.
Right.
And, Charlie, I'm sorry, I should never say it. Coach McBride.
Right. And that's one thing he did was coach us hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
But he could do that because we knew he loved us.
Yeah.
So I think Matt spent a lot of time, not just Matt, but his coaches. I love the people he surrounded himself with, those coaches. I do believe, I don't think it's fake. I think they genuinely care about those kids, and they're trying to pull greatness out of them. And I think the kids feel that, the student athletes feel that. And now you're going to see push, but you got to first start with earning the trust.
Right.
Yep.
Especially coming off a transition. And so you're gonna see even more and more pushing, and in the end, man, there were coaches I didn't love, but I'm grateful he did that for me, because without that I wouldn't have been able to do what we did.
Right? You talking about McBride for me, even though I was on offense, smacking me around, talking crazy to me, and telling me that I was going to forever be a gas pump guy, because I will never play here until I got my mouth closed. So eventually I did, and I'm grateful for that. When do you anticipate the new edition opening and moving into the new digs?
Going to go big? Well, we're that's kind of been it's been variable. It's been a challenge, to be honest. It's 315,000 square feet. I don't think people really understand the scale of this thing.
Huge.
It's so huge. So what Matt is really, and this is what I love, Matt's attention to detail is such that he wants zero interference with the process, right? So, could we technically, well, this is done and this is done and we can move into, we're going to just make sure there's no disruption to football. So if we can't move in until camp is over, then we're going to do that. So it's a little bit variable. I'm not exactly sure of the timeline. We're working hard on it. Houseman's working hard. I mean, everybody is all hands on deck, but just the scale and size of the project is such that it's a lot. And so we're not going to move the team over and then have to disrupt them and move them over here. We will wait till they can actually, and then some of the other functions like the training table, life skills, all that stuff that we all, on the west side there,
Yes.
that's likely to be closer to the end of the calendar year.
Mhm.
Trev, when you talk about Matt and his mindset, from one thing, he has a unique mindset, I think, and you talk about his ability to push players, right? But that doesn't just stop at football.
No.
Has it been refreshing to kind of sit down and maybe bounce some ideas off him? Because he does have experience. When you go from Temple to try to build, I mean, his facilities at Temple were from when he started there to when he left were extremely different, as you probably did in your research. And the same with Baylor. Then, you go to the pros. His experience and his mindset, has it been refreshing to say, hey, man, what do you think about this?
It really has. I'll tell you what, Matt is really, really intelligent. Like
Right.
He has a photographic memory. And the one thing I think in administration that you have to be careful, I see it happen. You have to be humble enough to recognize that you can learn something too.
Right.
And I feel like I've learned a lot from Matt. I learned from John Cook. I learned from Amy. The reality is Matt has a passion for recovery and player safety.
Yeah.
And the grass fields that are going out there are
Right.
all about, and I'm learning a lot about recovery. I'm learning a lot about, it isn't just strength and conditioning and performance, but the science behind the recovery of it and the, preempting of injuries and nutrition at a totally different level. And the water.
Yeah.
I mean, I walked up the second day, and I won't say the young man's name. We were going to the training table, and here's a young man, and he's doing push-ups.
Right.
And people are checking every kid in. And I said, what did he do wrong? He said, well, he didn't bring his water with him. I'm like, man, it seems like you got to go push-ups because you didn't have your water with you.
Yeah.
But the point was, that's part of the discipline, accountability. Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw this. I think we've released it, but under Coach Rule, this is the highest GPA in football.
Yeah, it just came out this. I think it's
wow. And that's saying something.
One semester, it's just under a 3.2. And part of it was, so Matt, with all this online learning now, what's happening is that students can just sit at home, and Matt's passionate about, as we went through COVID and some of the mental health stuff, is people are isolated. We think we're so connected because we have this phone, but if you're sitting by yourself looking at your phone, are you really connected? And so he doesn't want them taking online classes. I want you to go to class. He wants them to come to study hall. And so even Dennis LeBlanc, who we all think is literally the greatest in that space, he learned from Matt. And he says, well, coach, they got a 3.0. That's not the point. This is the culture. This is building the family. I want them in the building in study hall. Right. And so I think it's to your point. I think it's just a much bigger thing than just the football piece and that's part of it. And these young men understand, like, am I just a means to an end for you? Am I a widget, or do you sincerely care about me getting a degree?
Right.
And that level of commitment on the, it's not just Coach Rule. I mean, I know here we're talking about football, but it's really cool to see, because you know what? Just like all of us, football's going to end.
Yeah, sometimes very quickly. You're like not like you want, and you have to be able to do stuff. I think I wanted to ask you about this, and then turn it off to Rashawn. This first year for these guys and being part of the building block for Matt Rule's, foundation, obviously his start to his career. From what Luke Reimer and Ethan said, it's totally different talking to them. They're almost like two. I know Luke got a haircut, and he got Jamari to get a haircut, but What about Matt Rule and the staff, and also Tony or Coach White on Satterfield? They've both mentioned have had a big impact on them, kind of seeing the whole picture. So, have you noticed that about the guys? Some of the holdover guys, I think you can really, in my opinion, see where the change is, because the new guys don't know any better, right? Where the holdover guys, they got to go through another coach, another transition. And for two guys, especially Luke Reimer, really had success. Ethan Piper kind of get out of his own way to sit here and talk about. Have you seen it for more than obviously than those two guys, that you multiple guys on the roster?
Yeah, I have. And again, I just think it's the level of investment, and frankly, Matt has more people, as you know.
Yeah.
The level of investment that the staff and the coaches are making in the players. I mean, it's life. It's dinners at their places. And I think, that's when you're taking over what's such a challenge is you have student athletes that are, spent 4 or 5 years in this and trying to transition, not trying to get them to not like the previous coaches. That's not the point. The point is, how do we take where you are today and grow you further? Right. And so I think Luke just speaks glowingly of Coach Rude and Coach Bush, and so grateful to them for everything they've done. But that doesn't mean he can't continue growing and learning from another perspective.
Right.
And, so I think that's what part of humility and growth is. And I saw that out of a lot of those young men.
Trev, you're the athletic director. Let's talk about the overall condition of the athletic department, just in general, because from what I see, great things from everywhere. I mean, the basketball team was just at Jackson Fairdeal Cafe. that was cool. I'm serious. For my brother, who's not a basketball fan at all, to send me a picture with him and Hoiberg, that made me feel good. He was, he had a big smile on his face, and I'm like, you ain't never even played basketball. But the fact that the athletic department in the whole, to me, is changing is a testament to you. And so when I say talk about that, just overall athletic department news, just where we at.
It's just it's a fascinating time, right, guys? Let's just be honest. We live in a time in our society where we have a culture that's really divided, and I try to tell our staff all the time, like, this is going to be hard for us, right? Like, every dollar we spend, we make. Nobody's giving us any subsidy, and yet we're going to love, honor, and support everybody, every student athlete, every staff member, every coach. But on the other hand, Rashawn, the hard part is, like, we can't let the athletic department be used by anybody to advance, right? And so we're trying, and now's the time when student athletes have been rightly empowered to have a voice bigger than ever before. And so how do we navigate through some of these challenging cultural times, in our society? And what I like is we've just kind of come together as a team, Rashawn, our coaches, our staff, and just said, we're about Nebraska. And we're going to have a unity of purpose. And you know what? Sometimes we don't agree on everything, but we're going to keep loving each other because we're here for Nebraska. And I just think if we have the courage to not let other people pull us into things that, at the end of the day, really don't have any substance anyway, and just keep investing in each other and our own personal relationships, like, I think amazing things can happen here.
Absolutely.
That's really what Nebraska is all about.
Yep. Well, we appreciate it, Trev. We know you got about 40 minutes. You need some rest, man, just because we get Coach Rule.
Rest? You don't need no rest, man.
Man, listen. See, this is the problem with you guys on offense. We've worked and we've done all the work.
Amon had another question.
Okay, well then go ahead then.
Give him, Amon.
By the way, we're excited about Amon, being at the university, and he's doing great things.
No, I just wanted to hit on the area that's being built out right now for the players, and just the other benefits. I say there will be other sports that's going to benefit from that area. So kind of talk about that just for a little bit before you have to jump off.
Yeah, well, first of all, I do want to give the previous staff credit. I mean, a lot of that vision in the Go Big was done prior to our arrival, and so that's going to be great. And a lot of that, again, is recovery. I mean, it's going to be weird, but when these guys get done with practice, they take their pads off. They literally are going to walk through this recovery thing, and there's a lot of science behind it. And so it's going to be pretty special. But what we tried to do then is to say, listen, obviously football is very important, but a lot of our donors were like, are any of the other student athletes going to benefit?
Right.
So then by adding on another floor, it was another $25 million. We bring the training table in there, life skills, academic support. So all 600 student athletes at the University of Nebraska are going to have the privilege and opportunity of using this. The other benefit of this is, as we're looking at Memorial Stadium and modernizing some areas, the great benefit we have is since Go Big comes online, it opens up all this backfill opportunity.
Mm.
So where you have this incredible strength and conditioning area to Go Big for football, now that football's leaving where they're currently at, that's going to open up an incredible space that some other student athletes who don't have that space. So this is really the catalyst. The Go Big project and the donors that stepped up there, $100 million that helped us create Go Big, are providing opportunities for our fans and our other student athletes in the stadium itself. And that's equally exciting to me. I will tell you this, we're trying to be elite at everything. I don't know of any place in the country, and if it is, then we're going to fix it, that treats their student athletes at a higher level than what we do. Yeah. And when I say treats them, I mean serves them. Like, we all had to do the work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they had it in place. If you were willing to do the work, and the good Lord blessed you with health to get through it, you could accomplish almost anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's what the pact was at Nebraska, and I feel good about that. And then Rashawn, we also hitting on early. We have good leadership. Ted Carter's been very supportive. We got Dr. Bennett coming on board. I've known him for a couple years. He's a really good person. We've got a board of regents that's invested in athletic success. We've got a governor who used to play football for us.
Right.
So, we should.
No excuses.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but
It's all set up. It's all set up in the right way. Let's say it that way.
But there's a particular players. Players come and go, right? But there's a particular player that left that I try to encourage to stay. And about a month ago, he calls me on the phone and he says, "Why didn't I just listen?" I said, "I don't know." He said, and I said, "Why you say?" He said, "Because it's night and day, not only facilities, but the people, how he's treated, what he's given." He said it's night and day. And if he had to do all over again, he would have stayed at Nebraska because there's no place like Nebraska. And I said, you probably want to tell your buddies that before they leave too.
Well, we're certainly not perfect, Rashawn, but I remind our staff all the time, if we didn't have student athletes, none of us would have a job. Correct. So remember that.
Right.
We only have a job because of the student athletes. So we're going to support them. We're going to grow them. We're going to help them. They'll make mistakes. We'll make mistakes. We'll stay together as a family, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, listen, I'm happy to hear that because I knew when I came in freshman year, and the biggest thing to me was that training table.
Yeah.
And obviously being a young kid, being a growing kid, appetite is there, but to know that this was at our resource and I had friends that go to other schools, and I'm telling them about the training table. They're like, "What? How much on game day you get to eat? What? I'm like, this is our meal for lunch or dinner, or when we go on a trip, we're eating 4 or 5 times before we hit the sack."
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the training table is awesome, and it's only getting better. So Matt has brought in, some additional perspectives on that. The Go Big project will allow. I mean, it's and what I really appreciate about is, there's 3 meals a day for student athletes. We're also allowing our staff to eat there. I believe part of a good culture is everybody. People need to see me. I need to be down there. I need to be talking to the student athletes, and so we're all together. We have basketball over here, soccer over here. If we don't have the training table, we never see some people.
Right.
And so you get the student athletes together. It's part of family culture. I mean, what's the best way to build family is fellowship, right?
You're
and breaking bread.
Breaking bread, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna bring my esports kids over there, so they get a little taste.
Let's see, what is it per kid to eat there? I can't remember. No,
We're gonna figure it out. Hey. If I gotta go into my own wallet, I'll figure it out.
You got enough money.
Yeah, I want my players to know that because they're kind of in their own silo over there with esports. It's new to everybody, so I want to make sure they understand that, because when I talk about it, I see their faces just light up.
Yeah.
I talk about my time on the field or my time on campus when I was younger to now, and what we're going to do with that program, and so their faces light up. So I want them to really see it and feel it. I mean, a couple of them did. When I had my spring class this year for Intro to Esports, we had students in there. We had Xavier Betts, we had Bonner, and we have Justin in the center, Gilchrist. And when we talked about esports, their faces lit up, and then vice versa. So that that conversation, that interaction of esports athletes and traditional sports athletes, it was there, and they were like always kind of throwing stuff off each other and conversating about what they had to do at practice during spring ball, then how Call of Duty team had to do this. That was like almost a relation there.
Yeah.
And so that was there. So that was a benefit to let the esports athletes know that we're not that far away and we're not that much different in terms of our process and how we get ready to play games as, football, baseball, basketball does the same thing for themselves.
Great things going on at the University of Nebraska, guys. We got, I really believe that the athletic department can help bring our state together. Scotts Bluff to Omaha, to Nebraska City. Like, we got to stay together, come together, and small state, small population. But if we have a little unity around, we can do some pretty cool stuff. It's been proven before.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys.
Starting August 31st. Thanks, Trev, once again, coming to give us 20 minutes and stuff like that. We appreciate that. We're going to go to break and come back.
Doing great.
We appreciate your support, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.